All right, today we are diving into a creature that, well, it lives in this fascinating gray area between disgust and, believe it or not, healing. We're talking about Lucilia sericata.
So, let's just jump right in with a pretty wild thought. What if the one creature that makes most of us recoil in disgust actually holds a secret to healing us? That sounds like a total paradox, right? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
So before we get into the, let's say, less pleasant aspects, I want you to meet our subject for what it is on a biological level. And you might be surprised to hear this, but it's actually kind of beautiful.
Okay, so let's put a proper name to it. This is Lucilia sericata. You've probably seen it around. You'd know it as the common green bottlefly. And I want to be clear here, this isn't some simple little microbe. No, this is a metazoan. It's a complex, multicellular animal with organ systems, just like us. It belongs to that huge phylum of arthropods.
And even its scientific name tells a story. It's actually pretty poetic. Lucilia comes from the Latin word lucere, which means to shine. And that's perfect, right? It totally captures that iridescent metallic green body. Then you have sericata, which comes from sericeus, meaning silky. That refers to the tiny little hairs covering its body that give it that shimmer.
So, where does this fly fit into the big picture? Well, as you can see, it's in the animal kingdom, of course. It's an arthropod, then an insect, part of the order Diptera. That's the flies. And we keep drilling down until we hit the family Caliparidae, the blowflies. And finally, our species, Lucilia sericata. And here's the thing, this species is, well, it's pretty much everywhere. You'll find it all over the world, especially in the northern hemisphere where it really loves those temperate climates.
Okay, so here's a key question. Is it a parasite? And the answer is kinda yes, kinda no. It's not what we call an obligate parasite, meaning it doesn't have to have a living host to survive. It's actually a facultative ectoparasite. What that really means is it's mostly a scavenger. It's perfectly happy living on decaying stuff. But, and this is a big but, if it finds an opportunity, like an open wound on a living animal, it'll take it. It's an opportunist.
And that opportunistic nature, well, that's where things can take a really dark turn. Because when Lucilia sericata decides a living creature is its next meal, it leads to a pretty serious medical condition. This is the point where our shimmering, beautiful fly becomes a really, really unwanted guest.
The life cycle here is that classic 4-stage transformation you learned about in school. The adult fly lays a whole bunch of eggs, like 150 to 200 at a time. Then, those eggs hatch into larvae. And yeah, that's the maggot stage. This is the stage that's really central to our story today. They eat and eat, then they find a nice dry spot to form a pupa, and boom, a new adult fly emerges, ready to start the cycle all over again. It is incredibly fast and efficient. Now, when this whole life cycle plays out on a living host, there's a medical term for it, meiosis. And let's be clear, this isn't just, some flies landing on a cut. This is a full-blown parasitic infestation where the larvae are actively, and I mean actively, feeding on the host's living tissue.
So how exactly do they pull this off? Well, you can think of it as a two-pronged attack. First, there's the mechanical part. They have these incredibly powerful oral hooks that they use to just anchor in and physically tear at the tissue. Then comes the chemical warfare. They secrete this cocktail of enzymes that literally liquefies the tissue around them, making it super easy for them to just slurp it up.
For any person who goes through this, the symptoms are, well, they're just as awful as you can imagine. I mean, beyond the obvious wound and visible larvae, patients often report this really distinct and disturbing sensation of crawling under their skin. It's a nightmare, and it really, really underscores how important prevention is. It all comes down to basic wound care, right? Keeping any cuts or scrapes clean, covered, and just keeping an eye on them, especially if you're in a place with a lot of flies.
Okay, so if this happens, how do doctors deal with it? First, in the lab, they need to know exactly what species they're dealing with. It's critical, and they do that by looking at really tiny microscopic details, like these breathing pores, the posterior spiracles. Once they have that ID, the treatment plan kicks in. The standard approach is, first and foremost, to physically remove every single larva. Then, the wound is cleaned out intensively. After that, doctors might use medications, either oral or topical, to make sure any stragglers are gone and to handle any secondary bacterial infections that might have started.
Okay, So we've definitely established the problem, the horror movie side of this fly. But now we are going to completely flip the script. Get ready for a major plot twist, because we're about to look at this creature not as a pest, but as a prescription.
So here it is, the big pivot. What if that same relentless tissue-destroying process we just talked about? What if it could be harnessed for good? What if we could take that destructive power and turn it into a precise, delicate, healing tool?
Well, that's not a what if. That is exactly what modern medicine has done. It's called maggot debridement therapy, or MDT for short. Some people even call it biosurgery, which sounds pretty futuristic, right? It is the controlled, sterile, therapeutic use of these exact same larvae to clean and heal wounds.
And this table just lays it all out, the tale of two infestations. On one hand, you have the accidental, dangerous myiasis. On the other, controlled, healing MDT. The absolute key difference here is control. We're not talking about wild, dirty flies. We're talking sterile, medical-grade larvae raised in a lab. They aren't running wild. They're contained, often in a little mesh bag, like a tea bag. This completely transforms the situation. Think about it. The alternative is often a surgeon having to go in with a scalpel and cut away dead tissue, which can be painful and imprecise. Here, you have these tiny biological surgeons that only go after the bad stuff.
So, how on earth does this actually work? Let's get into the nitty-gritty science behind this pretty incredible form of biosurgery. And to really get why this research is so important, let's just zoom in on one country, the Netherlands. There, myiasis is a massive problem for agriculture. Get this, something like half of all sheep farms have to deal with it every single year. That's a huge economic hit, and it's a powerful reason for scientists to really dig in and figure out how we can control and even harness this fly's biology. So it turns out the maggots do way more than just eat dead tissue. Their secretions, the stuff they excrete, is a literal biochemical powerhouse. First, their enzymes are incredibly precise. They dissolve only the dead, necrotic tissue and leave the healthy stuff completely alone. Second, their spit has antimicrobial compounds that kill off harmful bacteria, even the nasty antibiotic-resistant superbugs. Third, they are biofilm busters. They can break down those slimy protective shields that bacteria build, which are notoriously tough for antibiotics to penetrate. And here's where it gets really exciting. The latest research is all about isolating these amazing compounds. The dream is to create new creams or drugs that give us all these healing benefits, but without having to use the live maggots. That could totally revolutionize wound care. Just so you know, we pulled all this information together using a Gemini deep search. If you're curious and want to go down the rabbit hole yourself, we've got you covered. You can find a detailed list of all our sources in the Notebook LM document, which is linked for you right in the description.
So it really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? Lucilia sericata, a creature that went from being a symbol of decay and a feared pest to a prescribed, life-saving healer. It makes you wonder, what other incredible secrets are hiding in plain sight in the very creatures we usually try to avoid? I'd love to hear what you think, so drop your ideas in the comments below. And hey, if you found this as fascinating as I did, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more to explore. Thanks for joining me.